Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Safer Social Media Show. On the show, we talk about how we as individuals can gain the ability to take a more critical look at what we see online and become more selective about how we use that information and how that leads to freedom of disinformation. Today, our Twitter chat and our conversation on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course, Twitter and Periscope is how do we counter hate speech on social media? And that is our conversation. Don't go away. We'll be right back in just a moment. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the show. In case you haven't met us before, I am Brigitte Lambanda. I am a global Goodwill ambassador and a live streaming advocate. I started my career as a live streamer, hosting shows about the Cape Town water crisis. And so I produce and host online shows such as this very one, and I lead conversations with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and authors. And my co host is Alison Diamond. Alison is a sociologist and a social media enthusiast concerned about disinformation and malicious information behavior. And she likes to focus on practical, user based solutions. Alison,
Mhm.
welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you.
And so we're talking about hate speech on social media. Would you like to just introduce the conversation?
Yeah, we just have posted our interview with Karen Kay, who I've been talking about all week because she is the UK head of the I Am Here grassroots social movement, which combats hatred online and does it in a very beautiful way. And I hope that when you watch the interview, you will be inspired to join this effort. I really love I Am Here. I joined the movement myself. And I mean, it's just, there's a special feeling, as I said earlier in our other video, uh, just watching a hateful space transform into a civil conversation that's full of tolerance and real information, not fake disinformation and propaganda and all that. So I really love it, and it's an open-minded conversation. There's people in the I Am Here movement of all stripes, different political directions and perspectives, but the idea is that if they can have a civil conversation and role model it for people in these channels where hate has been prevalent, then maybe we can influence others to do the same. So I'm going to post the first question. And these questions, you don't have to have already watched the video. I think maybe one of them is a question that's directly related, but they're all stemming from that conversation about hate speech. And so the first question I'm going to post here um, asks what your definition of hate speech is. And you guys know that every week Twitter or something does something funny. So if you don't see it right away, at least you know the question. And so I'm going to try posting it. But I'm going to ask you, Brigetti, what is your definition of hate speech?
Um, I would say for me, hate speech is anything that attacks a person's in their personal capacity or attacks their belief system, um, anything that belittles the person or is demeaning or that intentionally embarrasses someone.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I see it as purposely divisive. Um, it seeks to harm through humiliation, like you said, belittling, and it aims to convince other people to feel the same way and to kind of pile on and, just bash. Sometimes it's just done for sport, and other times it's done because people really cannot tolerate what they're seeing. So, that's something that I'm sure we've all seen. If we've not been the victims of it ourselves, I'm sure you've seen it. We've got more and more cyberbullying and harassment and hate speech being discussed in the regular news media. So it's kind of hard to escape that concern. So that's my
Yeah,
definition of hate speech too. Go ahead.
yeah, I like the component that you mentioned. It's not just about the person spewing or attempting to tarnish someone else's reputation or belittle them, but they do it in such a manner that they want to, influence other people to do the same.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's intentionally antagonistic.
One of the things that I Am Here accomplishes by, I guess, overwhelming the section with these civil, friendly, and open minded posts is that it kind of overshadows the hatred. So I that's the thing about what Karen calls hate storms. If you can inject some peacefulness in there and overshadow all that hatred, so that when people come onto the channel, they're not exposed to that. To me, that's some of the best grassroots activism you could do online. It doesn't involve violence. It doesn't involve pitting yourself against somebody else. It's just about having a civil, open-minded discussion where we can all learn something instead of just throw rocks at one another.
Yeah, no, and I like the approach is that they diffuse the situation with facts. Because I mean, if somebody posts an untruth or disinformation or whatever it is, and you can counteract that with pure facts, be factual without being emotional. And I
Hmm.
think that to me is always the key issue when it comes to dealing with these kind of situations, is to try and remove the emotion from. I know it can be trying sometimes, but to the extent that you can, remove the emotion and just be factual.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good tip. And in fact, when you're confronted with hate speech, it is hard to not respond in kind. And that's, if you were to join I Am Here, I think that's a skill you will learn to build, because it's role modeled all around you. I mean, just joining that group, I think, changes your mindset about how to deal with hatred. You don't have to become hateful yourself. And it's so easy to get sucked into that. So if there's any lesson to be learned, whether you're witnessing what they do or you're a part of it, is that you have control over your behavior. You don't have to do that knee jerk, right back at you kind of angry response, which is of course what they want, right? They want a hate storm, and you don't have to be a part of that.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. I one of my favorite things is always the fact that we cannot control how other people treat us,
Hmm.
or what they say to us, but we can control how we respond to it. And
Exactly.
very often, a response can literally turn the course of the ship. So
Hmm.
I think, just and I like. I mean, personally, I like doing that. Oftentimes, it's just instead of having a knee-jerk response, um, take a step back for a moment, take a breath,
Yeah.
um, and then decide on a course of action. Because oftentimes it can be a lot more harmful if we do a or have a knee-jerk reaction.
Hmm. Yeah. So I wish my post would go up there, but it'll be up there eventually. It's the
Yeah.
way it works. But do you want to go on to question number two?
Yes, I think so. Let's move on to question number two. So, question number two, I've got it on the screen there, is why do you think comment sections and Facebook groups, so it's not just about Facebook, it's comment sections across all social media platforms. Why does it seem to attract so much hate speech?
Yeah. What do you think?
Um, I think one of the main reasons why it possibly does that is because people have the ability to join social media platforms, particularly on Twitter, I would say, and
Hmm.
on Facebook. People have the ability to join under a pseudonym, and people have the perceived or have some kind of a perceived anonymity, not realizing that if you're on the internet, however that is, you are identifiable. You can be found.
This is
You know,
true.
people can somehow people just don't get that. I don't know if it's, we need to do a whole lot more education around it so people can understand. I mean, if you've got a bank account, whatever it is you do in life these days, you
Hmm.
will have a online profile. I always have a chuckle to myself when people say, "Well, I don't have a Facebook account." The fact that you don't have a Facebook account doesn't mean you are not online. If you've got a Twitter account or whatever it is, you have an online presence. Is
Right.
the word.
But I think because a lot of it is in the heat of the moment, we're not thinking about that. I mean, there's times where I have posted something, and of course my name is attached to it. And after I post it, I think, wow, I might have been a little harsh there, And my name is on there. I'm not hiding behind a name, and I still, have those moments where I might say something a little too quickly. So. Hiding behind a mask might make it easier to not apologize or anything, but I think when your name's on there, you might be a little more hesitant to be just outright nasty. Not saying it works for everyone, but I know for me, um, not hiding behind a name like I used to. I used to hide behind a nickname. I didn't want to put myself out there. And now I do. I use my name. I added it to Twitter so you can see what my name is, and I speak for myself. I'm not hiding, and I'm not saying anything I'm going to be ashamed of, and I will apologize if I need to. Those are all important things. Just owning what we do.
I think that's an important point that you make. Owning our social presence and learning to be responsible for what we say and do across all social media platforms, wherever that may be.
That's true. I'm about to print. I'm about to post question number one, and I hope that even if people aren't, some of you aren't going to watch this until later, but that's fine. The answers are valid as long as Twitter exists and they keep our posts up. We will be happy to see the answers, and we talk a lot about hate speech and bullying and protection and legislation, all these related topics. And so your answers are valid for a lot of different topics. So please don't hesitate. Don't think that the topic is out of date and that your words don't mean anything, because they do.
Well, that's an interesting thing that you mentioned there. Hate speech and online bullying, misinformation has been around for the longest time on social media. And my guess is that it's not going to go away anytime soon. I mean, we're hoping to influence the direction. We're hoping to influence change. We're hoping
Mm-hmm.
to inject positivity into social media by creating awareness through conversations such as these. And I think, if we create an awareness, I'm hoping that people may become more aware of when they see negative posts on social media to follow suit of the I Am Here movement by trying to change the direction of the conversation.
Definitely.
Um,
We all can do that.
and I would, the one thing I would like to see a lot more as well is in line with the I Am Here movement is that when you see someone being attacked on social media, however form that may take, is, we don't know people's mindsets. We don't know people's situation. It could be someone that's being attacked on social media that doesn't have the mental capacity at that moment to react in a positive manner. We never know. But if we observe something, could we take it upon ourselves to try and diffuse the situation, um, or inject some positivity? And if you must, I know that with LinkedIn and with Twitter and with Facebook, one can report it to the platforms,
Mhm.
and you can make a comment and basically force that person out of the conversation because they're disrupting the flow of the conversation.
Yeah.
So it's one way in which an audience can play a vital role when there is a online conversation such as what we're having now. Is if there's a
Mhm.
disruptive person, um, then help the person that is presenting or talking by managing these trolls, or online bullies that appear.
I posed two. Do you want to say anything else about question two?
Um, no, I think we've covered it. In fact, we've pretty much covered up to question three already, I think. Um,
Well, question three is, what are your thoughts about I Am Here's method of countering hate speech in the media? So we should talk a little bit about that for those who have missed the video or haven't seen it yet. Do you want me to
I
describe it? I know and people should know we're like 9,000, 10,000 miles away from each other. So between us, there's a lag. So once in a while, we might talk over each other. There might be a little gap, but that's technology for you.
well, I've shared my thoughts. So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so for question number three, I'm just making sure that it posts here. Can you see these, by the way?
I will have a look.
I could see one and two. There just looks to be a little bit of a delay. Oh, I think it just came up. So I am here's method is, what they do is there's a call to action basically, and they look at posts like maybe the comment post of a newspaper, and this can be anywhere around the world because they have global chapters. There's a U.S. I am here. There's a general I am here that's hosted by different people. It looks like maybe different volunteers every day, and it's all volunteer based. And so there'll be a call to action. Everyone will get that call. And if it's something that is too sensitive for you or you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to join that call. But if it's something that you do know something about, say it's about transgender hatred, maybe somebody was in the news and about I think one article was about a young man who was gay and he dressed the way he wanted to and had a wig on, and he's a model. And the article talked about how he kind of overcame fear and all of that, and actually went to the prom, and he was the star of the show basically. And a lot of hatred was spewed in the comments about him being unnatural and the same stuff we usually hear. And so what I Am Here did was they went in there and actually educated people about transgender issues or being gay. Maybe I think in this case, because there's been so many articles, but in this one, yeah, he was a young gay man. I think he was in his teens and he was a successful model. And so people made all kinds of disparaging remarks, and all the kind and intelligent and thoughtful things that were said by people coming in from I Am Here really overwhelmed those negative comments. And it almost brought a tear to my eye because I know that other people, other gay people, LGBTQ people would be looking at this, and who wants the first and main thing for them to see? All these young people to see all this hate. So I just love what I Am Here does. I can't even describe it. But that's what they do. And so I would love to know what you guys think, because not everybody feels like they can be gentle. They're done with it. They have no tolerance, and then they spew it right back to the haters. And if that's your method, tell us why you think that works, or does it work? Are you sorry that you do that after you've done it, or do you think an approach like I Am Here might work better? Um, I'd be interested in hearing those thoughts.
That's true. Everyone has got a different approach, and a forum like this, just gives people an opportunity to share what they think. So it'd be great if
Mhm.
people could let us know what they think. Do you like the gentle approach of I'm here, or do you take a hard line, um, and try and knock the wind out of their sails, so to speak,
Right.
if you came across hate speech, either whether it's aimed at yourself or just someone else in general that you don't particularly know. Um, I think we've pretty much covered that. Shall we move on to question 4?
Sure. Question 4 is posting right now. Um, let's see. I posted it before I read it. So, do you want to read it? And it'll be
Yes,
up momentarily.
sure. So question 4 is, what types of people have you seen targeted online the most with hate, ridicule, and intolerance? Um, I don't know. For me personally, I see it people from all walks of life. You too rich, you too poor, you too black, you too white, you too in between colors. You
Yeah.
too rich, you too poor. There doesn't seem to be any particular, um, I don't know, description of people that are exempted from
Yeah. Yeah.
from online hate or intolerance. Now, I know, for example, on LinkedIn, of all places, some people, we discussed this as well with Karen. You know, LinkedIn, for example, is a professional network, and you would imagine that people would behave in a more professional manner.
Yeah.
Um, but it doesn't happen. People, I don't know if it's uh, possibly professional jealousy, is what I would maybe put it down to.
Hmm.
But I've heard so many reports of people, and I've not just heard it, but I've seen it in the comments where people would post um, comments that are unkind, irrelevant. I'll give you an example. Someone was doing a live stream, a very well-known professional on LinkedIn, and somebody thought it appropriate to comment about his weight while he was talking. And I just thought, how rude. I mean, it's not that he was having a conversation about weight loss, in which case
Hmm.
he may have commented that way, but the conversation had nothing to do with weight loss whatsoever. So it was a very inappropriate comment, and you could tell from the manner in which this person made the comment was that it was intentionally nasty. It was intentionally meant to hurt and to
Right.
disrupt. And then there was
Hmm.
another example of a lady who's doing exceptionally well, but she's also like everyone else. She's got an amazing story of how she um, used LinkedIn to grow her business exponentially by doing live video. And she's done
Hmm.
that on Facebook, she's done that on YouTube, on Twitter. She's got a great podcast going now. But somehow her success, which didn't fall into her lap, she really has worked hard. I mean, she's got an incredible story. And yet people somehow have the freedom to post nasty comments, not just to her posts sometimes, although it's not often open, but she gets a large volume of direct messages with hate messages. And
Wow.
you,
And so the public, I know it's frustrating, but the public comments, aren't they the people's real names?
they are. And I don't know, it baffles me. It baffles me. But it's not just in the public comments, it's also via direct message that she gets these
Mhm.
hate messages, and it's a large volume. It's not one that's few and far between. It's not like the odd message. It's a
Right.
large enough volume for her to constantly talk about it. She mentions that she gets these hate messages.
Yeah, that's very sad. But I think that if people start to adopt this way of thinking, if I am here does one or two hugely successful things, one of which is counteracting that the hatred in a group, but the other thing would be just their mere presence and their action can influence other people to start doing that on their own. When you see hatred, to start filling that channel with positive things. Just go through it, like the positive comments, maybe comment on somebody else's kind words, and add something educational perhaps if you know about the topic. I think if everybody did that, and of course, there's always going to be hate out there, but all of us who want to see that hatred go away, if we all just adopted that, response, we'd make a huge difference. I see you got question number 5, so I'm going to post that also.
Yes, so question number 5 is, what personal experience do you have as either the recipient or contributor to hate speech online? So if you're watching us live, have you ever been the recipient of hate speech, or have you ever contributed to hate speech on a social media platform, any social media platform?
Mhm.
Um, I personally do not like, I've never liked engaging in hate speech. And I have approached a number of people that I know, for example, who, if you've just joined us, welcome. Um, I have approached a number of people that I know, for example, who have these pseudonym profiles, not their real name. And I've often asked them,
Right.
why is it? And the funny thing is that they're not even ashamed to tell me that they do this so that they can speak their mind freely. They're, they're not ashamed.
Yeah.
And then I explain to them, but it's in your head. You are not really anonymous. It there's no such thing as anonymity when you're online. People can find you, and you really need to be careful um,
Yeah.
of what you say on social media, because you never know what the backlash is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to confess. I belong to a Facebook group that talks about a TV show that I really, really love. It's one of those reality shows. Um, it's Project Runway, okay? And um, and we were having a discussion, and I found myself um, being harsh about the designs I didn't like or behaviors I didn't like of the contestants. And at one point, um, there were designers who actually would join the conversation, and then as the show showed them more harshly, people in the group would say, "Oh, I can't stand so and so, and he's whatever," and I started to think about how I was joining in on that conversation, like as if those people on the show weren't real, like they're characters with scripts. And it's easy to fool yourself into thinking that because we hear a lot of things about social or reality shows not being real. They're scripted and faked in some ways. So it's easy to think of the participants as being that way as well. And yet somebody from the show came and disappeared after her portrayal became negative. And then another person towards the end said, "This is the meanest group I've ever seen." And I thought, oh my gosh, and I've probably contributed to that. And I didn't curse them out or say anything evil, but I contributed to the negative atmosphere. And anytime I agreed with somebody who said something negative, even if I didn't say it in those words. So I think that's a lesson for people to, even if you are not saying the negative things, if you're supporting someone else who did, you look like you're saying the same thing as well. So we do need to take responsibility for what we're doing and saying, and for agreeing with what somebody else is doing and saying.
I know, right? I personally was involved in a situation once where someone fairly close to me said something nasty, really nasty and personal. And initially I thought, this could be a storm in a teacup. If I said anything,
Mm-hmm.
it could cause a huge social issue within my circle. And I gave it some thought and I realized um, if I didn't say anything, I would be complicit. My
Mm-hmm.
silence would make me complicit. And
Mm-hmm.
I literally went in and I said, I would like to distance myself from this comment. Um, and I am not agreeing with the comment. And I do not believe, I believe that this matter needs to be taken offline. It's not a conversation that belongs in social media. And I also said, I'm speaking up because I don't want any of you that are party to this conversation to walk away thinking that I agree with what was said. And then
Mm-hmm.
I left it with a comment saying, um, please note that I will not be engaging in any further conversation on this matter because I don't believe it belongs in social media, but I wanted to make clear what my position was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And that's something all of us can do. We've seen on the news where somebody will be outed as a racist on Facebook, and then they will show the comments that other people made that that person never, countered, never warned, saying, I don't want this speech on my page. That's not the kind of person I am. I mean, there was no comment. So all of those people were exposed, and the person who allowed it to happen was exposed. You have to think about you don't know when your comments are going to end up in some other environment. You have no control over that. So you should be careful what you say just for that reason. But obviously, you don't want to be part of a hate storm. So think of it from that perspective as well. I'm going to post number 6 because I see that it's up. This question is: from your experience, which social issues seem to attract the most hate storms on social media? I'm going
I
to
would have to
answer.
say,
You can go first.
in my experience, I would say politics is always a hot potato.
Yeah.
um, and that's
I agree.
irrespective of where in the world it is. It's always a hot potato. And if you're a politician or if you're going to step into politics, you need to understand that you are going to become a target. Um, you
Yeah.
know, if you've never been targeted before, you will now become a target, and it's relentless. It's absolutely relentless.
Yeah, you have to have nerves of steel. It's hard to fathom what it's like, and we hopefully will have somebody as a guest who can talk about that. It's a life that I would have a hard time leading. I'm sure I would grow um, some muscles around it and be able to handle it, but just to know that so much hate is out there being expressed would, I think, would just be a shock to me. Um, I think that besides politics, and this kind of reflects on the earlier question about what groups of people are targeted, and Brigetti was saying, pretty much all of us are fair game. I think that I've seen attacks about religion. I've seen attacks on, people who are uh, autistic. I mean, it doesn't matter. They will target you. So the social issues are things like immigration. You can almost guarantee you're going to see some nasty comments and not. I mean, you could have the same opinion and not express them hatefully, but that topic you will see hateful comments. You will see hateful comments, of course, about politics, like you said, LGBTQ issues, a lot of nasty comments when women are featured in an article, racist comments when non-white people are featured in the United States, and I'm sure I know some other countries it's the same way. If you don't speak English, sometimes a post will be in another language, and you'll see hate speech about, why are you writing in Spanish or what have you, whatever the hot topic is. So those are what I've seen.
Oh, absolutely. It's varied. It's very. I would find it hard to profile any particular issue.
Hmm.
It's sometimes I look at this and I think, it's like, when you're a kid and you were in the car and you're sitting at the window and you're looking at your sibling and you'll start this whole fight, like, Ma, she was looking at me. It's like, really? you know
Stop
and
looking
when I
at your
look,
brother.
stop looking at your brother, and so I look at some of these nasty comments sometimes and I think, it's very similar to that kind of thing, and you think, like, really, someone has a different skin tone to yours and that is an issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's why so much of this is not worth responding to. It really is not worth it.
Oh,
And I
absolutely.
feel a question. I feel a final question coming on.
Yes, it is. So the invitation then is to join Safer Social Media in pledging to peacefully counter online hate speech and bullying when you see it. And the question to that is, what peaceful action would you take?
And I would love to see your comments from now through whenever you happen to come across it. Feel free to answer what peaceful action you would take and what peaceful action you have taken. I'm taking this pledge. I'm going to make it a habit when I see nasty comments. I'm going to put a fact in there, and I'm going to give you an example. I was on a comment page where people were making nasty remarks about a young man who was dressing unconventionally. I think he had on some ruffles, and his hair was, a different color and long. And people were saying, you don't know who you are, a man or a woman, or those kind of things. And I put a reminder in there. Our founding fathers, if you remember, wore ruffles and buckled shiny shoes with heels, and they wore wigs that went down to their shoulders. I mean, the only reason we call somebody a cross dresser today is because that's not in style. That's the only reason that they look out of place. If they could wear those same clothes if that was in fashion, and nobody would bat an eye. And fashions change all the time. People don't understand. That these are arbitrary rules that are set up, the way that men are supposed to dress and the way that women are supposed to dress. Even pink and blue used to be the opposite way back when. And
Yeah.
people are close minded to the fact that these things change. So, putting a little education in there can be helpful and help people to open their mind and think.
Absolutely. Well, we're out of time as well. So please do leave us a note in the comments. Let us know how you plan to make social media a more peaceful and engaging space and make it an inclusive space.
Thank you, Brigetti.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll be back again next week with a safer social media show. Until then, it's goodbye for now.